Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is October the 12th of 2023, and things are getting slightly more Halloween-y as we go through the month of Spooktober. There's no spooky discussions this week, though, so we're just going to have to make it up in other places. So.
Yeah, and actually, this is just Quinn. The Spookmaster General's off this week. They needed a vacation. Which is understandable. They had to work pretty hard throughout the entire month of October. So this year they decided, what if I just took off?
Yeah, you know, it's like that one famous year where Santa Claus just decided not to work, on December 25th. It's like, I've got all these vacation days built up. I never use them.
And that explains why one year I just didn't get Christmas presents, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't because my family was too poor. It's because Santa took off.
I mean, I bet there are some times when I haven't really gotten very many Christmas presents. That's because I'm a terrible person to shop for. Because people ask me like, "What do you want for this stuff?" And I don't know. That's just like me every year. I'm terrible to shop for.
Was that like your as a kid, like you were like, write a list to Santa, and you were like, I don't fucking know. You sent it over to him. And he just gave a shrug and then gave you a Super Nintendo game. You're like, oh, I have this console. He's like, I don't. What did you want me to do, kid?
Look, you've got very bad communication skills, kid, and until you actually work on those, people aren't going to know what you want out of life. You have to be able to express your desires and stuff. And then I took all that advice and I just channeled it into expressing myself negatively. So people still don't know what it gets for me, but they do know what I don't like.
I know if I were to ever buy Nick a gift, no chocolate. It can't be chocolate.
Right.
A dog. I wouldn't get you a dog. I wouldn't get you a dog made out of chocolate.
Well, this is the great thing about growing older is that also you learn to compromise, and it feels as if I'm going to get a pet that it's probably going to end up being a dog because Nicole likes dogs and she's allergic to cats. So she kind of gets she's got the ace card in the deck. She's got all 5 pieces of Exodia loaded up and ready to go if we ever get an argument over it.
Yeah. Well, that's powerful, and I really like that about her. In the meantime, I'm going to think about what to get you as a Christmas gift. I'm thinking something you would wear. Perhaps
that's actually not a bad bet.
Perhaps a hat. You love hats. You're always wearing hats like you are right now.
Yeah.
I always think of you as an iconic hat wearer.
It's interesting that you do that.
Yeah. I like to think of my friends in facts they've never established about themselves. I'm like, my good friend Nick, noted biology fan, God. Lover of The Voice and Dancing with the Stars. He's big into Batman. I've heard it.
Have I ever watched The Voice? I don't think I've ever watched it. Jesus. I at least watched my mom has watched Dancing with the Stars when I've visited her sometimes, so I've seen it and it's like, well, this is a very celebrity driven pop show.
Yeah, I think I've never seen it. I've seen clips of it, and I just don't get it. Because there's been 12 seasons of American Idol since then that I don't know anybody from. So why would I know any? It's not like if you're on The Voice, oh, well, this is you're going to become huge. I'm just I've never heard anyone from a singing based reality show in 2 decades. So
if we're talking about singing reality shows, there's of course the big one. It seems like right now in American reality TV is The Masked Singer, which persists seemingly entirely on people going oh, can you believe that this absurdly weird choice for a singer was on the show and they were terrible because they're not a trained singer. But I discovered like that there was like some compilations of like the actually good performers, i.e., the people who win online, where they just cut out all of the
The
bullshit.
bad people.
Right. Well, and also just like the format. They just
Yeah.
cut out all the bullshit of the format, and it's just like, well, here's Wayne Brady for the 1 year that he won, and just all of his songs just in a row, and they're amazing because Wayne Brady's a very talented singer. T-Pain, no one thought that he could perform all these different genres and stuff. He's very good at them. And here's all his performances, and then, but even in those, you can tell that there's snippets where they're going like, and at the end of this episode, which will happen any second now, we will reveal who has been eliminated. After this commercial break. All right, we're back for the commercial break where we are going to reveal who the next singer is after we watch this compilation of past clips from the show. And now the moment is here. After this commercial break, it's just like this show could be 10 minutes long.
Yeah. I wonder if we sound ancient for complaining about something like this. Because I guess kids... God, that's what's going to make me sound ancient, is being like kids today. But I just mean like, yeah, if you were born after the year of like 2005, you probably have like very little context for like cable television and the way it functions. Like, I mean, I say that, but I guess it's still popular enough to keep going. So maybe there is still audiences that are like, yeah, I don't know, my mom watches fucking that shit. I just have Hulu or whatever. I don't know.
It does, I'm sure, have to. I'm sure it does have a very, your parents kind of audience for a lot of it. But yeah, the way you have to think that it's like maybe they just also persist on like posting stuff to YouTube so that people can skip the commercials.
That is like a real way to consume content, is just like, I'll wait till someone posts it up to YouTube.
Yeah.
There was something I watched recently that I was like, I'll just wait till it goes to TikTok. And I just eventually found it on TikTok, and I was like, I'll just watch it this way. Sometimes it's just how it be.
And that's how most people consume our show, Quinn. Is that they don't watch the live television broadcast on Fox 31. They
our favorite affiliate.
Yeah, Fox 31. The not conservative one.
Let's go Des Moines.
No, I was trying to suggest that it was like the 31st of national syndication.
Oh, no, not just like that's, it's the, like, because I had like Fox 45 was like.
Right. It was like Fox 13.
They're like specifically like, no, this is the 31st ranked Fox affiliate. They're positioned now like a Hunger Games style. Like you're ranked every day.
Also, I tell a lie. We wouldn't be a Fox affiliate. We would be like a Discovery Channel affiliate, like, one of the ones that's just not popular enough to make the main show. Discovery Channel, number 275 or something like that.
Yeah, we're History Channel 2 affiliate. Every so often, Aliens Outbreak or whatever gets interrupted. Just be like, a new manga came out. Goku unveiled a new form.
Oh man, we would have never gotten it if Aliens Area hadn't happened last year too.
Yeah, we were on the outs, so they were like, "We love this area-based content." And the best part, no one watches our show, so they still think it's in here. They're so dumb; they've never checked to be like, "Is Alien Area still running?"
Don't blow this for us, guys.
Yeah, guys, I just shout "Alien" randomly into the mic once per episode, and they think that's us discussing it. That's as far as they get.
They just do an occasional Control F of the transcript. No, Alien came up. Yeah, they're good.
Sounds right.
Also, funnily enough, they do not care about the Elusive Samurai content. It's like, not that kind of history. No.
All right.
We do have manga to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about manga. We've got so much of it to talk about and so little time. In fact, I am going to turn back into a pumpkin after about an hour, so we're gonna have to go quick. That's right. I'm not Cinderella. I'm the carriage. So let's start, Nick, by talking about Undead Unluck. This is because we have no My Hero Academia.
That's true. Yeah.
This is number 178. That Wound There. So we open back a little bit with Yusei telling Rip like, hey, you got a choice. Live a quiet life or join us and cut off your legs, basically, so you can use the Blade Runner. Latla immediately is like...
Also, I can't do it for you. You're gonna have to do it because if I take the sword out, I can't.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I can try to cut your legs off with the hilts, but it will be slow going.
Yeah, you would wish for death. I'm just gonna make it very clear. It's gonna be excruciatingly painful to blunt force your legs off. That's like some Skyrim shit where like a giant slaps you and like the model AI has no idea what to do, so it's like, no, fuck it, your limbs pop off. Latla is like, what the, like, Rip, hold on, think about this. Like, you're talking about losing your limbs here. There has to be another way. And Rip's like, look, if you were in my position, you would do this too. Like, it's not like I'm doing this for nothing. I'm going to save everybody. So, you know, I'm going to make progress, is what he says. And Latla interrupts him and says, if that's the case, then I'm going to make progress too. And we'll come back to that later. Because we cut over to Sick, who is facing off against all of Union. He's just sitting there. He's counting. He's like, oh, this really is the last loop after all. You guys have been on a collecting spree. But it's like, hey, you know, not for nothing, guys. Real sorry. I am going to be taking all of your lives. I am a quest after all. And Gina just like says to Fuko, like, go on ahead. Leave this to us. So we see a moment of Sick being like, yes. Now, what kind of sickness shall I give all of you? And Fuko just fucking runs straight past him. And Sick's just like, isn't that the first seat?
Isn't she she's your leader?
Yeah,
right?
that's the leader, right? Gina and Void are like, yeah, no, she's the boss. You'll be faced as Sword Note. I think these are the only two official members of Union at this point. Like, I think they only have 3 seats or whatever. So, but we just cut back to Sick, who's just like, wait, hold on. Wait, what? She's ignoring me? Like, what are you gonna do? I'm the 10th Master Rule here.
Which in some circles is known as the 0th Master Rule.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, and he just kind of pouts in the corner, but he starts to like rationalize his way out of it. He's like, oh, you know what? I must just be so commonplace. She doesn't realize what a big deal it is. I'm here, right? Okay, fine. Then let me share a sample of my melody that makes the world go round. And he makes a baton, I assume, out of blood. It could just be sickness juice. Who knows what the 4Kids dub of this calls it. But also, there are these, you know, sort of virus-like modules, orbs, that kind of are interconnected together and connected, it looks like, into Sick himself. Six is a different character. A little bit more terrifying to this guy. But yeah, very unnerving about this guy. And he starts having these little orbs shoot out needles that eject the patients. And he creates basically like, you know, like a music line. I forget what you call these.
A music staff.
And all of some of his juniors occupy it as terrifying little musical notes that are screaming. Yeah. And he's just like, yes, this will do for the intro. And now for a hook, I will need you all to liven it up. You see, music is the only worthwhile thing that humans have ever made. Classical, in particular, is my favorite. And I find, and like as this is happening, a bunch of missiles have just been launched at him that explode.
I am giving my villainous monologue. You are all being very rude.
I have a very cool speech to deliver. You're all very mean.
I don't get to talk to people very often. I mostly just go, here's a plague, you're dead.
Yeah. I don't get to, like, brag about how awesome I am and how cool music is, so if you could just give me that. We don't. He gets shot up a whole bunch, gets knocked into a wall. Gina and Billy tag team together. Gina creates an unchanged wall where Billy's gun is able to fit through, and she just shoots him, and then the bullets just ricochet back into Sick over and over again. It's very, very cool. Then they take the barrier down, and Phil's basically an orbital cannon who shoots him, and it obliterates this entire like a hole through the hospital. Like, you'd see like it's that thing of like a hole after a hole after a hole. And like Nico's like, oh, did we get him. He didn't seem to show much of a sign of resistance. And then he immediately appears next to Nico. And not only is he there, he's also unscathed. And Nico's just like, wait, did he regenerate? I can't tell where his core is either if we don't get a handle. And then boom, he gets stabbed like right through the top of his chest. And we see a couple other members. We see Gina get stabbed, Mui, Phil. He just stabs them all. And he's like, the seeds I've planted in you all will become a sound that I will conduct into a song. And with the aid of my baton, my tact will fine-tune the world. And he is causing a lot of chaos. Everybody, like a bunch of juniors are now attacking. Everybody is trying to fight while also protect the people who've just been grabbed, like who've been hit. He goes over and very disrespectfully grabs Gina by the hair. And is just like, yes, I guess I shall extract you first. And Gina just says, your music fucking sucks. You should get your hearing checked.
Also, she spits in his face.
Yeah.
Just for this.
He's sick though, so that might not really done. That might have made him stronger.
He decides to like drink it out of his hair, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
And he does appear to like lick it up. But he is just like, you know what? All those who possess life want to live. That's why I conduct. He's gets this whole thing. Like sometimes there's too many people. There's too loud of a chorus. So my job is to bring the numbers down. Kind of affirming one of the theories that they had said earlier about why sickness exists. Is like, yeah, it's just a population control thing. God really is that big of a fucking asshole. But he starts to absorb something out of Gina. I'm not clear if it's supposed to be her soul or just like life force exactly. It's like a nebulous, you'll die if I take this kind of thing.
So it seems, yes.
Void tries to intervene. It's just like, let go of Gina. We even have Mui grab onto Six's leg. And he just says, oh, don't worry. I'll be extracting all of yours too soon. And then a bullet shoots through his forearm. And he drops Gina, and she's just like, oh, here it comes. A stroke of unluck. And Fuko is shown back up. Says, bad bullet 50. And he's like, is that your idea of an attack? And we cut over to Rip and Latla, who are approaching. We just see the Blade Runner legs as they're walking forward. And they're just like, is this really going to work out? Well, just make one of your predictions. He's like, I did make one. And they're smiling to each other because they know all the details. And he's like, your predictions are always going to miss the mark, right? Then we're A-okay. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And we see the Blade Runner attack go through, and it fucking devastates Sick. It cuts off his whole right arm. It fucks him up. And everybody's looking and grinning, and we like see a little bit of their speech bubble from far away as Rip's like, what was the line again? And Latla's like, what? Why did you even bother to memorize it? Like, if you didn't know. And we see the reveal that Rip is there with his right leg in the Blade Runner, and Latla has her left leg in the Blade Runner. And Rip says, that wound there, it won't repair itself till I die.
But Latla's going like, it won't repair itself. It won't repair itself until I die. Until I die!
Right? She's feeding him all the lines. And we just get a little phrase that says the lock is complete. Mr. Rip, Miss Latla, we're going to lay it on him all at once. So, hey, Nick, Latla did something. She took on one half of the burden of Blade Runner. I did see Ninja in the chat ask her, like, what's the advantage of this? I guess the advantage is one, Rip won't have to lose both of his legs to all of this, but also because Latla would be actively invested in all the attacks, they now have a very powerful weapon that knows when it's going to miss, and if it hits, they can't heal from it, basically. So I think that kind of always existed, but I think the idea of them doing it in tandem makes that thing a little bit stronger, perhaps.
Right. It increases their synchronicity with each other. But I actually, when I saw this, I felt like very touched seeing it. Just like, oh, Latla took out that burden for him, so they wouldn't have to just do it all by himself. Because of course, we saw the loop where Rip cut off both of his legs in order to get stronger, and how he was just miserable and single-minded in trying to accomplish his goal. And in this way, he's not as isolated. And we've had this point pressed about how Latla and Rip and Layla are a unit. And so to have this be their reintroduction that just affirms like, yeah, they're in this together is very nice.
Yeah, I really like the idea that she is going to help share this burden, and this is going to be a different Rip, one who is going to be motivated by unity and not, just single-minded revenge. And I don't know, it's kind of cute in a way. Like, again, these aren't, these are supposed to be characters that have like a romantic tension who are like also meant to be like, they will never be romantic. That's just not who they are. So I just like the idea of these two being like, we're very, very close. This is how close we're going to be. We're both going to lose a leg and take on this, thing together.
Mm-hmm.
Cool stuff. Liked it a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of sweet things, let's talk about Blue Box. It's chapter 120. Outrageous! What's really outrageous is the sort of time skip that we get in this chapter. It's a whole month and a half that we missed. Who knows what's happened in that time? I don't know. Time advanced, basically.
Yeah. Who knows? This could have been the most wild, fucking crazy march anyone's ever seen. They're like, man, that scorpion infestation in the school, wild. I can't believe we lost so many kids.
Everyone just got really, really into American college basketball, and it was...
Yeah,
it was like, oh man.
So much so they were literally driven mad by it. It was an eldritch March Madness this time around.
Yeah. What would be the most ridiculous college, dude? Something like, I don't know, MIT when the
holy shit, that would drive people insane.
Are you fucking? I lost so much money on this.
They're like, Harvard won? What the fuck? I didn't know they had like an actual team. It's like Tasca Schooner fucking community college, and they're just like, what?
Tokyo University won, of course. This doesn't seem like they should be eligible.
Seiren actually won. You're like, the team from Slam Dunk won? That was a high school team.
Oh boy. So first off, that's Kuroko, not
oh, sorry. Yeah, my bad.
Shuhoku, I think, was Slam Dunk. Anyway, sorry. Don't get me talking about other sports manga. I need more. So the big thing that's happening right now is that the new school year has started, which means that there's been some lead up to it in terms of like, oh, what's Taiki going to do next year? Chinatsu is now a senior, and she's going to be like the head of their basketball team. But also, of course, that comes along with that is new first year students in the year below Taiki and Hina and everyone else. And so there's some new students who are checking out the different sports clubs, and they're like, oh, there's that girl, Hina Chono senpai. She's so pretty. They say she placed 3rd in the country last year. And look over there, Chinatsu Kano senpai of the basketball team. She's cool. She seems really aloof off the court, but you can tell that, when she moves like that, it's like, you can't really tell that she's the same way. And then, Chinatsu, I guess, kind of overhears them, like, talking about her up in the bleachers, and she looks up and they're like, oh my god, she looked at us! And Kyo leans over to Taiki and he's like, aren't you worried? And she's already got a new whole batch of admirers. And Taiki's like, it's okay. I've just got to not let it bother me. Just got to be me. Just got to be confident. So he's had this conversation with Chinatsu. Chinatsu's his girlfriend. It's fine. And then someone is like, you think she's got a boyfriend? Nah, maybe I'll have a shot with her. And he's like, ugh. They talk about how, the qualifiers for nationals are coming up soon. And meanwhile, there are some guys who are checking out. It's like, oh, hey, look, there's a new student on the girls' badminton team. Oh, she's all clumsy and not very good. Her serves are just hitting the net and drooping back down. And look at her. She trips and all the shuttlecocks go up in the air and they fall down around her. Oh no!
This is like such a fucking like shoujo romance introduction to a character. Yeah. Like I was like, holy shit! Did like they accidentally publish a chapter of Skip Beat instead of Blue Box this week?
So this girl is Akari, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm used to being clumsy and stuff." And she also establishes that she accidentally grabbed her older brother's racket by mistake.
Nick, I don't think
And
anything will come of that. I bet
no,
her older brother's no one significant.
yeah. Nishida
I'm the
comes
kind
in.
of viewer. They Chekhov put out a gun at the front of the play, and I'm like, good. I'm glad that gun will never be used. And I'm going to be mighty disappointed if it shows up again later on.
That'll be a very poor gun safety practice, obviously.
It goes off. I'm like, what the fuck? Boo! Boo! I thought I knew where things stood in this.
You don't set something up unless it's going to come into play immediately after.
I don't like setups and payoffs.
Nishida comes in yelling and saying, there's 2 outrageous additions in the first years. And it's like, why are you coming and running to tell everyone else this? You're the captain.
Well, I think
Why
that's what he's
dealing with it.
No, I think that's what he's doing. He wants to tell everybody. He's like, guys, this is gonna be crazy. He's like, he's a teenager. He's like ready to just share the drama he's just learned.
I guess.
Yeah, he's a dope.
Yeah, it's true. So a coach or advisor or something like that is chewing out one of the new first-year students who, and he's like bumped into him and apparently has not adequately apologized because the kid apparently said "my bad," and the teacher's like, "That's not an adequate apology." So it's like, all right, calm down.
Fuck off, dude.
It's like, "Oh, you're making a bad impression as a new student, Yusa." And it was like, wait, what? Yusa? What? And they established like, oh yeah, he must be, I guess, related to Yusa from Sajikawa. He kind of looks like a troublemaker. There was a rumor going around Sajikawa Junior High that he went out of his way to go to Eime instead of Sajikawa. But if he's Yusa's little brother, he must be pretty good.
It's weird because I know that that's what kids would think, but in truth, you'd have no reason to really believe that. It's like assuming. I guess I think the same thing. When I heard Michael Jordan had kids who play, like, I was like, well, they're probably decent at basketball. Not just like necessarily because of genetically or anything like that, but just like, I guess it would be around them, but still.
Right. There is definitely some link, but yeah, if we're talking about like, oh, well, this high schooler is really good, his younger brother must also be really good. It's like, maybe he did join the badminton club, so presumably he's got something. But yeah, but Yusa, the younger, overhears this and it's like, hey, who said that? Who just called me Yusa's little brother? I've got a name, the joyful name Haruto.
I do love him saying it's the joyful name Haruto.
Also, he gets up in Nishida's face.
Good. Fuck Nishida.
Then he realizes, wait, you must be the captain, and bows to him respectfully. Yeah. So, nah. Ruined your first impression, kid. Sorry. You had a chance, but no second chance to make a first impression. However, he does also apologize for Mr. Motogi causing a ruckus, which is pretty great. I'm sorry that he's making noise chewing me out.
I think he's also just shooing him. He's like, go away. Get out of here.
No longer needed here. Thank you, sir. He introduced himself fully as Haruto Yusa and says, I've come here to win at Nationals. Thanks for having me. Of course, there's limited slots for who's going to appear at Nationals for the team. So both Taiki and Haru have a bit of a reaction to this. And he flat says, Haru says, I've had enough guys who are all talk and no walk. And Taiki's like, wait, are you saying I'm all talk?
Hey, why am I catching shrapnel here?
So everyone kind of like, starts to scatter and do club stuff. Taiki goes by Haruto a little bit later, and Haruto's like, oh, hey, you know where the bathroom is? And points in the right direction. He's like, thanks. And Kyo realizes what's just happened, and he says to Taiki, yeah, he thought you were a first year.
Yeah, because there was no respect. There was nothing to it. It was just like, oh, cool, thanks. It's like, he just thought you were another one first year. Like, oh, no!
then they're like, one of the other club members says to Nishida, is like, "Oh, by the way, didn't you say that there were 2 weird cases for joining the Batman Club?" Taiki, notices Chinasu while he's wandering around the gym. They exchange very, very terse greetings because, of course, it's still a secret from everyone that they're dating. The girl, Akagi, Akari.
Hikari.
I'm gonna have to remember her name. It seems like she's going to come up again.
No,
later.
I think this character's one and done, Nick. It's like a background character, you know.
Her shuttlecock from her match accidentally hit Taiki in the head, and she comes rushing over and says, "Oh, sorry, excuse me," and she trips and stumbles and catches herself right before hitting Taiki. So,
good.
Just because someone trips doesn't mean that they have to fall into the protagonist.
It is also
Manga
weird.
Writers ever.
Yeah, it is weird that there's, again, we're reading, a romance comedy and Jump, and like a female character tripped and like her clothes didn't spontaneously explode off afterwards. Like, I'm just like, oh wow, like people could just naturally trip like they would like humans.
She like somehow stumbles and just like tugs her shirt outward so the Taiki's head goes into it. Like, I thought it would help me stop falling into you.
That would be like the inverse. Like she stumbles and falls into like a heavier sweater. Like you're just like, oh.
Oh, the fact that I fell into the sweater really cushioned my fall. That's just very convenient. So, there's an awkward moment between them because she's like, oh, I'm always tripping and stuff. And there's a weird moment because Taiki has a drink and she says, "Oh, it's not like I want your drink or anything." I guess because she was tripping and heading towards his drink when she tripped. I guess it's weird. But as she turns off to go back to her match, Taiki says like, "Oh, when you make your shot, keep your elbow in a fixed position." And then she goes over. And Haru says to Taiki, "Oh, I didn't realize you knew Akari." And it was, "What?" "Yeah, it's hard calling her by her last name." Taiki's like, "Why is that?" "Oh, you don't know. She's Hyodo's little sister." So the 2 rival characters,
oh wow,
both have younger siblings who are going
very
to
coincidental.
And Taiki's like, "Wait, that guy? And where did she get her genes from?" As in, they look nothing alike. So, but wait.
That's because That's because he looks like he's 25. He has a very old face.
Yes. So yeah, Taiki's like, "Oh wow, yeah, it looks like I'm not gonna be able to rest this year because we got some real characters who joined the Batman Club." But meanwhile, Akari keeps her elbow in a fixed position under Taiki's advice, hits the shuttlecock, and gets a really good shot from it. And she's like, "Oh, so that was Inamata-senpai." Oh no.
So this felt like a huge chapter for Blue Box because it changed so many status quos. It established like, hey, this series is moving forward. We're in year 2 of Taiki, Chinatsu's last year of this school. We're going to introduce new first years now because that's, important. Your school life does change based on the classes that leave and enter. So like, yeah, it made sense that like they'd add some new blood. The idea that the 2 students added are the younger siblings of Taiki's and Hyusei's rivals, basically, is curious because I suppose this is a way to more easily also then presumably involve those characters with Taiki and things like that outside of tournaments. Like, you don't have to wait for the next tournament for Haru. You don't have to wait for the next tournament for Yusa to suddenly be involved, or Hyodo, who I don't think we've seen in a very long time.
Well, because he's Haru's rival.
Yeah.
And so, unless we're specifically in Haru's head when he's thinking about Batman, then why would we ever think about Hyodo?
But this does create the opportunity to be like, oh, hey, we're out on the town. Oh, hey, it's Akari. Let's talk to her. Hey, my big brother's here. And be like, all right, get some interaction. I'm mixed on this. I think it's unique because I do like the idea of like, all right, whole new, relationships and worlds. There's a part of me that's a little sad because it didn't feel like we had like reached a complete finality of everything before. It was, we were in a great place with Shinatsu and Taiki, but I had almost kind of got bummed when I was like, oh, I guess there's just no development that happened with Ayame and Kyo. Like, they
Hmm.
just didn't, have any significant conversations in the past month or anything like
Right.
that. So there's a little bit of a bummer there. But yeah, I don't know. This is surprising. These are definitely two characters that I feel like are here to just fuck with the plot.
This was probably my least favorite Blue Box chapter in as long as I can remember.
Wow.
Uh, which is not to say like, oh, it was bad, I hated it. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't like, oh, that was nice. I was like, I don't know if I'm interested in having these two younger sibling characters around. If it were just Haruto, I think, then I could be like, yeah, all right. There's this weird guy on the team that, could be another foil for Taiki, just like his older brother. He doesn't seem to take Taiki very seriously at first. Uh, but I don't know if I'm good with like this idea of like, hey, let's introduce a female character to have a crush on Taiki. It's like, but why? Like,
I'm okay with it because I think the initial premise and partially why the series is called, Blue Box is that it's not specifically just here's Taiki Ichinatsu. There was like a little message I think at the end of the first chapter. I'm trying to see if I could find it. I just remember them having some line about like, and I think a lot about all of the memories we are gonna share together in that gymnasium, basically in that
mm,
blue box. So I do like the idea of like, hey, there's more characters in this. Um, we'll see how these relationships go. I don't think I'd be super pumped at the idea of like Akari's like, I have a crush on Taiki. We're just repeating the fact of like, he's gonna say no because he's infatuated with Chinatsu. It's not, you're not going to change his mind. But I'm also not against the idea of like, maybe he does just have, um, not a suitor, but like a person he's close to that maybe Chinatsu can feel jealousy towards or something like that. Or just like he has a friend. And as I said, like, if the story keeps going, we get to chapter 240, Chinatsu's going to graduate. Like it's one of these things that I'm just like, all right, like I could see like we're setting the groundwork. Let's see where these characters go, essentially. Like I'm going to keep my mind open. But I do agree, this did feel very sudden and difficult to process.
you gotta move with the times, I guess.
Mhm.
We'll see how it goes. Uh, we are going to move on now to Chainsaw Man,
Vroom
chapter
vroom.
chapter 145, Kumbaya, which is about the church being shut down. So the Church of Chainsaw Man, I should say. There's all sorts of different facilities that all get taken down by the government, and they establish like, yeah, we seized their heavy weapons caches. We're calling in the parents to establish a victims group, and yeah, bring in the media too. Get those crying faces on camera. So they are controlling all facets of how they are eliminating the Chainsaw Man Church from the table. To what end exactly? Are they doing this now? Why didn't they do it before? What's going on here exactly? There is a guy that I don't know if we've even really met before who's got a bit of a goatee, who says that he is authorizing the capture of the war devil Asa Mitaka. Can't leave the church's poster girl out in the wild. Here I was hoping she'd do us a favor and turn Chainsaw Man into a weapon. So maybe that's why they left the Chainsaw Man church alone. Uh, one of the other agents who's there says that the devil name consultant wants to speak with you. I think that we've heard of the devil name consultant a long time ago, but this definitely is, I think, the first appearance of them because they show up later in the chapter. So they kind of also, he looks over at the poster for the Chainsaw Man Church, which of course has Asa in the foreground of it. And one of them asks him, "What do you suppose the Chainsaw Man Church wanted?" And he says, "To play being Chainsaw Man, probably." So even they don't seem to know exactly what the machinations and the puppetry that were actually manipulating the Chainsaw Man Church were up to.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Barham was surrounded by agents who are all, there to arrest him. And they say, like, "Yeah, you're under arrest on charges of arms trafficking and furnishing devil contracts to minors."
But, Nick! Barham Bridge, don't you mean Scarum Witch? Hold on, wait! Nope, those were two good ones. You got. Ooh! Dagger. Oh, like that broke.
Okay. Yeah, Denji's bodyguard says, "Hey, why don't you work for public safety next?" You traffic stuff to minors. You seem like you'd be good for government work.
Why don't you join us? Just like, I don't know, we already got enough you kind of weirdos working for us at this point.
And she also points out, like, yeah, the bow and katana weapons devils are working with us already. So yeah. He just says, "Can you give me a minute? It's sunset, the most beautiful time of day." Everyone looks at him like he's a weirdo. We cut away from there to where the agent we saw before has met with the devil name consultant, who says, there's a corpse. The corpse of the devil that was killed. It was, being fed by the falling devil. And so the consultant says, "Upon analysis, we've identified the devil believed to have been defeated by Chainsaw Man the other day as the Justice Devil." And so the agent, thinks about this and says, maybe it's the Fairness Devil or the Equality Devil. And
I like that you can get like ticky-tack like that. Like somebody's like, "Oh my god, it's the fucking the goat devil." They're like, "Actually, that's a ram. It's very different." Yeah, it's two different fears. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Pretty much. It is a bit of a weird, like, cutting thread site. It's not like, different concepts. Like, no. Equality and fairness are two different concepts with two different devils.
Yeah. It's a whole different thing.
So the consultant says, no, its name is Justice. Which begs the question, even after this devil's death, the Chainsaw Man Church followers could use the power attributed to the Justice Devil. And yeah, he's like, yeah, Division 4 killed a follower who used that power. So in that case, it's looking like the devil they made contracts with was never the Justice Devil. So, meanwhile, in Asa's apartment, on the TV, there's a news report saying, like, "Oh my god, yeah, there was followers who were illegally contracted with the Justice Devil at the Chainsaw Man Church, and yeah, they're fighting devil hunters and stuff." And Asa's like, "Wait, they're doing what? What is happening?" There's a knock at her door.
There's a knock at her door.
Okay.
Come on, it's Three's Company.
I don't...
That's how the Three's Company song starts. There's a knock at your door. There's a knock at your door. Somebody's waiting for you. I could just gaslight you at this point.
You could.
And then Mr. Roper shows up. He's like an alien. That's their bodyguard / landlord, and they have to pretend that he's gay, otherwise they're going to kick him out of this apartment complex. This is actually, minus the alien part, this is actually the real premise. The Three's Company.
Wait, so the bodyguard / alien landlord will get kicked out if they don't pretend he's gay?
No, Jack will get kicked out.
Okay.
It's supposed to be an apartment for all women, but this is the 70s, so the joke can just be he lies about being gay when actually he's a ladies' man. So like the whole comedy of errors is like they can't make this guy. There can't be a situation that ever makes him look heterosexual because then
Right.
he'll lose this apartment that he needs. And he has
Can't ever grills and dates.
yeah, and he has two beautiful female roommates.
Okay. So if he's not allowed, if he's only allowed to be in there because he won't sleep with the tenants, because that's presumably why, it's allowed.
They lie and they say he's gay, yeah.
Right. So what if there were lesbian tenants?
Nick, there's only so much homosexuality allowed on television at the time. We're 31 homosexual.
They're like,
well,
if there's a gay man here, then that means that his aura will push out any other potential gay people.
Uh-huh. They're like stand users. They all have their territories, and you kind of know when you've entered. You're like, oh no, I've entered into a stand users area.
And that's why there were no same-sex kisses on TV. It's not that there weren't any gay people. It's just that they would be magnetically repulsed from each other.
Yeah, it's like when you're a sorcerer in Jujutsu Kaisen, you use your realm technique or whatever.
Right.
Like it repels. It's an instant kill if someone enters and you immediately get one shot. So you just know to stay out of the range.
Anyway, there's a knock at Asa's door.
There's a knock at your door.
Right. Yes, Three's Company. I get this reference, Gwen. Yes.
Start the entire bit all over again.
And so the voice demands that Asa, or specifically the War Devil, get on the ground with your hands behind your head. So Asa says to Yoru, okay, I came up with a plan in case enemies ever got my address and attacked us at home. This apartment belongs to me, so I'm going to turn room 606 into a weapon. I need you to control my body afterward. And Yoru hears this plan and is clearly like, oh, well, okay, you've gotten a little crazy since we first met, huh? And it's just like, yeah, whose fault is that? All right, get ready. And she puts her hand to the floor, and she starts to declare room 606, and the door gets cut down. And as she is declaring sword, we cut away as Yoshida has burst into her room. It took me a second to realize it was Yoshida because his hair is different. But that octopus tentacle can only belong to one douchebag. So it's clearly him.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Barum is being taken away and he's singing Kumbaya. Because he's crazy, I guess.
Yeah.
Denji's ready to go, like, oh yeah, time to go home. And they just like, yeah, I'm hungry. And so they start to leave. The sun sets. We cut back to Yoshida, who has just cut off Asa's arm before she could finish turning her apartment into a sword. Uh-oh!
So brutal. What a fucking end of a chapter cliffhanger. You're just like, no, Asa!
I literally read this chapter and immediately went, you better not fucking do it. Don't you do it.
I can accept that she might have to lose her arm. As long as she doesn't die here, I'd be very disappointed. I don't think that's going to be the case. But, I mean, this is definitely, like, a page turn. It's like the fucking... It's like, I hate to, like, be like, it's genius. Because it's not really. It's just obnoxiously good that this entire scene is then surrounded by the song Kumbaya, My Lord.
Right.
I'm just like, that's a song. Like, God damn it! I hate that this is being used in a dramatic, ironic way.
Yeah, the slow minor key remix of the song for the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, this is the slowed down trailer version of Kumbaya, My Lord.
Because as we all know, Kumbaya was originally an early 2000s techno pop song. So.
Now I know. Good chapter anyway. Lots of fallout, I presume, will come as a result of this, but we shall see. Nick,
I could hear your enthusiasm starting to drop off towards the tail end of that because you were suddenly aware of the black hole that was immediately in front of us.
I was like, Nick, it's time to talk about Eden Zero, chapter 259, Storming the Edens 1. So we get a cover page that's a little map of where everybody is. Super useful.
I hate this.
Super useful. I know where
it's just the blank, featureless void of space. There's no different locations except this ship, and that's it.
And then that fight's happening there, and then that one's over there. I like that they're like, this fight's happening here. These 5 fucking characters are just over there, though. Like, I was like, aren't they supposed to be fighting the dragon to give the ship time? You know, whatever. Who cares? Hermit's like, oh my god, you're activating a self-destruct thing. This is really, really bad. You have 10 minutes. Gotta get out of here. We see Witch, who's like, oh no, you're gonna destroy the ship. Why would you board it first then? And Wizard is just like, we're only here to kill you. Who cares what happens to us?
I love that they bring up the point of like, wait, if you're engaging a self-destruct protocol, why did you also board the ship? It's like, because I want to kill you.
Fuck
all right.
Well, you got me there. We cut over to Sister, who's like, oh my god, the ship's gonna explode. What are we gonna do? Moscow, we can't open the door. Pino's still out cold. But then Clown shows up, Nick. And he's like, yeah, sent on a mission doomed to deflagration. Can't you taste the tragic heroism? And she's like, Clown, how did you get here? And he's like, don't you remember? You never took me off your ship. I've always been here, so I've retained my memory for the other universes as well. And I'm like, that doesn't explain how you're on the ship. Even if you jumped, you would have taken over the Clown of this universe.
Right.
Whatever. I don't care. I
mean, yeah, technically speaking, he doesn't state it as how he is actually there, but yeah, he does kind of bring it up in response to Sister being like, how did you get here? He's like, it's good to see you again. Let me tell you about how I have my memories from the previous loop. It's very important that I have those. Remember all the times we had together, like when we fought? And that was it?
And then you jumped into a different universe, basically. He's like, yes, I have memories of the last world. She's like, yeah, then you remember me beating the shit out of you. He's like, oh, yes, I do. And I'm grateful to not have to be one of the 18 different characters who are like, no, I'm arbitrarily stronger in this universe. He's like, nope, I'll probably still get my ass kicked, so I'm just going to poison you to death. And gas starts filling the room, and Sister goes, anti-android gas, no!
I
If it's anti-android gas, wouldn't he be dying too? They're all robots!
Fine. Look, clearly it's anti-android except for clowns gas.
Oh.
Look, if we're going to say that there is a gas that androids breathe in order to kill them, then I think that all bets are off.
It's surely one of these things like, what are you fucking doing anymore, my guys? This is a goddamn mess. He's like, yes, I'm not here to fight you. I'm just here to make sure you end up dead. Happy calls out for Pedo to use her EMP, but she's still unconscious. Everyone starts passing out.
Why didn't he just use an EMP?
I don't know. But he's like, good. All the robots have been taken out, but Happy has not been knocked out. He's like, how are you not dying? And Happy's like, in this universe, I'm not a robot.
Oh, God knows there's a solution for this.
Yeah, I guess I'll use my gun instead.
A tiny anthropomorphic cat with no special powers? Ah, fuck. I didn't account for this in my plans.
It would be great. He's like, I'm undone. My plans raveled. We see big space battle going on. I'm recapping this right now. I'm currently forgetting what happens at the end in this, like, if anything occurs here. So This is going to be a surprise to me as much as it is to you. Shiki lands on Eames 1. He's like, cool, I'm here. Oh, never mind. It's right. This happens and it's stupid. A bunch of robot soldiers attack him, like 100. They shoot a bunch of bullets, and Shiki just uses gravity magic to, like, I guess they're physical objects, or he uses gravity to, like, move light. I'm not sure. They shoot him with a bunch of stuff. He stops it, and then he throws it all back at them and punches them. He does the same 3 things he's done. But one of the robots is like, I've survived. I can't believe you actually boarded the ship. And then explodes. And Nick, who should be here but Lightning Law of the Elaration 6 Galactica, who I think does the same stupid little hand sign that fucking the card used in Fairy Tail. I know this is like also can be used for like other, symbolic things, but I assume he's meant to be a reference to that god awful character as well.
I don't even remember that character, so.
Well, we won't remember this one either, so it works out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I literally looked at this guy and I thought, he's part of the Elaration 6 Galactica. Have we seen him before?
We've never seen him. They teased 3 new members. It was the same time they teased Joker Helix. They were like, there's also Lightning Law and somebody else, I want to say, maybe. But yeah, this is a guy who's just been teased name only. But he's
to very briefly say something positive. This entrance, I think, is actually a really cool idea. That there's like, he controlled a bunch of robots, and then when that failed, the electricity that composes his form just explodes out of the last one and forms his body. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Lady Freya, yeah, I think that was the name of the third person they mentioned. He says, little did you know this would be your final destination, Shiki Granville. And then I guess that Shiki echoes, because we start doing the 20,000 years ago flashback. And sister is like Shiki. Yeah, they're 2 different characters. Is in the past like Shiki, and which is like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, it's nothing, forget it, maybe I'm just sick, but sometimes that name pops into my head. I wonder if it's anything important. And which is like, no, it's a good name, Shiki. And I don't know if this is meant to imply that this is like a time loop thing, that like the 20,000 years ago universe is being influenced by the 20,000 years later universe, but this is criminally bad as a storytelling method. I don't know why at some point Hiro decided the best way for me to tell this flashback was 1.5 pages at a time over the course where nothing's happening.
There's nothing established. So they're aware of the name Shiki. Okay.
I said maybe cool. that's meant to because it like the transition between scenes was the echo of a character saying it, and we've already established that Shiki's gravity powers can like pull memories from other universes and stuff like that. Like maybe this is meant to imply that Shiki and like the gravity of his powers is affecting this time that already passed. I don't know. It's just stupid right now. I hate this delivery vehicle of 2 pages at the end of a chapter. It's just like the worst way to consume something that is meant to be read on a weekly basis.
I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom recently. Very fun game. And there is a device in it, same as in Breath of the Wild, where you can go to various parts of the map and it will give you a memory that forms part of the cuts, the story of it. So they're, sporadically introduced throughout the game. And each time you find one, it's a big, sizable chunk of the story.
Yeah.
So you feel like, I found a thing. Let's sit down and take it in. And if I don't have these in the right order, which of course you find them all around the map, you don't get, then it's like, there's gaps in this. I don't really know everything that's going on. But a whole scene happened, and I get a grasp of like what's happening between the characters that are talking and stuff. And I feel like I've learned a piece of information that will form a vital part of the entire story once I have all the pieces together. With this, it's like, they talk about the name Shiki. Moving on. There's one where it's the previous one where it's like, Brigadine and Valkyrie are Killer and Witch they're engaged. No, Killer, Wizard. And
Wizard. Yeah, they're all.
These names all suck. Wizard and Witch are engaged. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it was last one or 2 previously, but it was like the planet could overdrive, and you're like, I guess that's something. But this is just
That's the most important thing we've learned so far. Beyond this world exists. I just think if like we had gotten like slightly longer segments than this, like have like a 4-page sequence, which is like establishing the way that like wizard and witch interact and talk to each other and are just generally around each other. And then at the end of that scene, like, you have the reveal of like, oh, they're engaged. Like they mentioned it up in a natural way as opposed to, did you know that they're engaged? Which are all allegedly things that are being talked about by the people who are most important to them in their lives. So it's very frustrating because it's bad.
Yeah.
And
nailed it in one.
And it's just, it's also often just not interesting information. It's staggering to me that we are like, this is like the 4th or 5th time that we've done this, and Hero's already scraping the bottom of the barrel for this stuff. It's like, did you literally do it this way because you just didn't not have enough content in order to make entire scenes with? Come on.
Again, I don't know what the context is supposed to be, that they're just like, Shiki, this name keeps popping into my head. Like, I get it. This is like some Kingdom Hearts sort of like, it's relevant because the world is relevant, names and places and things like that are relevant to you, the reader or the consumer of this piece of media. It may not make a complete logical 100% sense, but like sometimes the emotions are more powerful than the actual written word. And it's just like, I get it. I just don't understand why a page and a half is being delivered to us once a chapter. Each one does not flow into the next. Sometimes they're very vaguely connected into it. It's stupid. It's really, really stupid the way that this is being delivered to us. Ninja's asking, do you think, is there an implication that this is maybe past which is Shiki's biological mother somehow? Maybe? Who knows? Again, if that's the implication I'm supposed to get from this chapter, I just don't really feel it. Because the notion that witch is like, oh, Shiki is a good name, is less interesting to the idea to me that the transition between scenes is the word Shiki over and over again, and witch or her sister being like, yeah, I don't know, sometimes the name Shiki just pops into my brain. Like, that seems to imply something like otherworldly is happening. And not just like, oh yeah, I heard the name Shiki the other day on the radio and I thought it was a good name for a baby.
It's also very important that we know more about this other alternate timeline.
Yeah.
Cipher Academy, Chapter 43. It's better to have a big war than a small war. I don't know if that's true. So, Iroha is on the 2nd/-1 floor in the Cipher Academy metaverse, which is an air raid shelter in design. So he's wandering around, and while he's like putting his hand on the wall to kind of trace his path, activates an unexploded bomb. And at first, he's like, "Oh God, what is this doing here?" And then a hatch on it opens up and reveals a pair of numbers on it. And he's like, "Oh, it's a code, and it's 28." With an arrow button pointed to the other one, which says 47, with an arrow button pointing back to the 28. So he realized, like, oh, I guess I've got to choose one of these numbers. And there's a 10-second time limit. Okay. Oof. And so he realized, like, okay, if you treat the arrows as math symbols, less than, greater than, then it's got to be this. 28 is less than 47. Okay. All right.
Doesn't a triangle in math mean something else, though? I guess it's
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No one would introduce this way in terms of like an actual mathematical equation to be solved, because you don't use triangles for this. You're right. You use, those. They're like brackets basically.
Yeah. So. Carrots, I think they're sometimes called.
But so he wanders off, and as he does so, we get a zoom in on the button that he clicked, which is glowing. Then we cut around a little bit. Toshusai is, of course, on basement level 200, which is a casino hall. And she's like, I don't do well in places like this. So she thinks about like, okay, should I utilize speed run strats and move ahead quickly? It's like, how do you speed
That'd be
run a
great. She
game?
just starts squatting over and over again and starts clipping through the ground. They're like,
Makes me go
God damn it, Toshisai just speed walled her or speed run herself into the 50 billion morgues. This sucks.
I do have to wonder, like, how do you speed run a game that you literally have never played before and don't know the mechanics of?
Yeah, that is the best part. She's like, I'll speed run this bitch. Like, you don't even know what this is.
But she says her other option is to sit my butt down and wait for Tayotan and Yukiko.
I
which,
like she commits to the bit. No one was around to hear it, so that does not count towards one of the 10 she has to say for a day. I think.
Yeah. And we cut around to a few places like Obro is contemplating like, I wonder if this is like like a roguelike thing. I'd have to start over if I took off the glasses. Tayu is on floor 150, which is the aquarium floor. Hey, a manatee! Look at the manatee, guys! Yeah,
that cute little guy.
And she notes that like I can't move up to a floor I've already been through, so for now, I guess I'll head toward who on basement 175, which is Kubinashi, who she has a history with as part of the Toshisai group. I'm not sure exactly why she refers to her that way, but whatever. And then we, get a few more people as well, and then we cut outside to the AV room of the actual Cipher Academy, where Kagoe is watching things along with Nohime and Seppun Sakuraguchi, the leading private of Class 1D.
I had noted last week that they did not appear to be participating.
Right. So, Kagoe is making conversations like, oh, how would you proceed in this? And Sakuraguchi says, oh, I wouldn't want to play a game that could kill me. I heard about what happened to Lord Nohime. Your eye was destroyed after you played the prototype for this game.
What a wild world this is.
But Nohime seems to not be all that concerned about it. She's like, oh, I suppose that did happen, yes. So they established that, quote, there is no longer any risk of death in that cyberbrain world. Even if a player does explode and die within the game, they will only suffer an equal amount of damage in their minds. That's what we peasants call a fate worse than death. So you die in the game, you don't die for real, but you do get scared. So, there we go. We catch back up with Iroha, who is still wandering around solving the bomb ordinances, and he's coming across harder and harder and harder ones to solve. The only one that I couldn't get was the fourth of the 5 of these. I don't know what 4M8KN means.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do like that the last one was one that I was like, as somebody who regularly uses Fahrenheit, this is actually a very easy one to answer.
Pretty easy, yes. It's the Celsius one.
Yeah, I was like, Celsius is very simple. We have the much more complicated and stupid one.
Right. So eventually it gets to one that's like, oh god, what is this? It says 1017 MB, 954 HPA. He's like, oh, I don't know what this is. So he realizes like, oh my god, I'm managing to survive thanks to my normal classes, as in, they are at a school, so he's actually applying like math and science and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's like, I can't do this forever. So we get a look at like, oh yeah, Junko, that one teacher who organized the big tag event, and also the instructor of Class 1F, Cardano Kyuranken, who looks like a shonen villain. Like
this motherfucker walks around with giant protractors, which I think is very metal. I don't really understand why they're doing it, but I think it's cool that they do.
Mm-hmm. And so Iroha establishes like every time they get to a fork in the road, there's this unexploded ordnance, and when I get close to it, it activates them. So he's trying to figure out like this latest one. He's like, oh, what is it? And then Koshibai comes up behind Iroha and goes, bang! Which is really cool and a nice thing to do. So Iroha's like, what? I thought that you were supposed to start like 100 floors below me. And Koshibai says, I like to start at the very beginning whenever I play games. So I took up my glasses weapon when we began and just restarted.
I think this is like how you tell somebody is like a veteran writer, because this is an extremely cool way to establish a character. Like, oh, we're meant to be like, poor Aroha has to start at the very beginning of this, and he's going to be all alone. And it's like, hey, here's a character who we know almost nothing about, and we're going to establish the way that they play this game is a way that they're also going to be an ally to our character who feels like they're, against the ropes, essentially. It's like an extremely simple and cool way to give a character like personality.
She establishes like, oh, okay, so the symbol here, MB, means millibars, which was an old term that was used to refer to the other symbol. So you just need to compare the numbers. The symbols are actually irrelevant to this. So she clicks the button, and Iroha asks, like, why did you throw away your advantage here? And why are you only thinking about just, like, how to have fun? Even you must have your own dream that you want to achieve with the 50 billion morgue, right?
Why did morgue... Did they change how morgue is spelled so now it's spelled like the facility and not just like a dumb meme? Because wasn't it before it was just MORG?
That is correct.
Bullshit. I hate this fucking manga. We're removing it from the recap.
It's not as fun when it's an actual.
All the old chapter or episode titles that reference it are gonna make no sense. But I'm gonna make Barry with all my morgues. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Which I mean, I guess it's because it's deadly. I guess. Anyway, so. Koshibai just says, like, I'm not interested in that. If I win, I'll give you all the money. Enjoying this life or death game itself is heaven for me. So, don't know if I necessarily believe her, but it does seem to definitely line up with her actions immediately prior to this. So, Iroha says, like, you can't just, before you go off ahead, you can't move ahead carelessly. And Koshibai's like, oh, no, I'm being careful. See, every time you've run into one of these ordinances, the greater than, less than symbols also point in the direction that you should be going. So that's why it was glowing before. So Kagoe and Nohime, and they react to this like, oh, wow, this is interesting. But they get it to the final unexploded ordinance, which is completely different. It's this massive, huge bomb. And Koshibai's like, oh, man, I guess we're going to have to, find the panel for this one. Where could it be? But Iroha says, yeah, this can't be it. Because when you think about it, these are, all unexploded ordinances, as in bombshells that have been dropped or launched. And there's no way that anyone would use a bomb that was so big that a rocket couldn't carry it. So this is just a decoy, and the actual one is probably lurking in its massive shadow. And that was the puzzle, by the way, because question 110 is just the presentation of this giant bomb. Question 111 is the actual puzzle behind it. So there you go.
I think that was 3 stars, though. Just be like, this isn't very practical.
This isn't right. So there is just a panel that has a number pad on it, a timer, and a space that says X equals blank. So they talk it over like, okay, yeah, so, and Koshibai, reiterates like, hey, I don't really have my own dream. I'll just support yours. I want someone to help me while they look and act. I wouldn't want someone to help me while they looked and acted bored. As in, like, you seem like you're, doing things in an interesting way. That's nice. So they think it over as like, okay, well, it's asking us to count the number of X's that appear when lining up the arrows that we saw along the path. So I think that the answer is X equals 2. So they're discussing this, and meanwhile, the three people observing are like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess they're a good combination when it comes to this. But why does Yorohazaka have his own unique opinion about unexploded ordinances? And Kogoe starts to say, oh, it's because and there's a huge explosion that goes off.
Yeah, we end the chapter on a shattered piece of one of Oroha's little hair ornaments.
Yeah. So
that would be great. They're just like, nah, they got it wrong, start over. And you're like, yeah, I guess, it's fine to die in a roguelike on level 1. Not really losing that much.
I wasn't really feeling this combination of abilities. It's fine.
Yeah, this build was all bad. I gotta start over, see if I can get a better waifu to start with. She's like, I'm a human being. Like, I'm sorry. I got caught up in the mechanics.
All right. Yeah, interesting stuff. Let's move on to Kagurabachi Chapter 4, Sorcery and the Enchanted Blade. Last time, the big lead that Chihiro and other guy came across was a little girl who was being targeted. And so Char, the young girl, is hanging from a rope. How's Chihiro got to deal with this? He cuts through the rope immediately. It's fine. He used sorcery to slash through it from a distance. And then other guy, Shiba, grabs her out of the air and uses his, teleportation ability to just teleport them outside and safely into a car outside. And Char's like, "What's going on?" And he says, "Like, oh, well, you passed out while we were flipping around. Wait, don't you feel sick? A lot of people feel sick when I teleport them. Just like, oh no."
I don't know if
Like,
this is supposed to be like, oh, perhaps you have some special ability or something, or if it's just like, no, it's just like a joke.
It's hard to tell.
I truly don't know where a joke begins and like plot relevant stuff happens at some points with this series.
So Char is like, was that all sorcery? I want to do sorcery too. And Shiba's like, well, you can learn it because it's just, spirit energy. It's life force. It's ki. It's Ryatsu. It's chakra. It's Nen. It's energy
Nick,
source.
It's so different. Stop. Come on.
It's the thing. It's magic ability.
Our main character doesn't even have a lack of it. How could that possibly be the same as all
It's mana. It's Morg.
What did they call that shit in Duran Duran? Was it called Doros? Mr. Duran, you're all out of Doros.
It's about as memorable as any other quote from that series. So the sorcerer guy is like, "Give me that kid," and Jiro's like, "No." And he summons goldfish from his sword again. He uses the black one, and there is a cool panel where he cuts through it from a distance, and the sorcerer guy has to duck, and like it cuts his cape and the line behind him along with the stuff surrounding him. It does look kind of nice. So he's like, "Oh, I see. That special spirit energy reaction that only an enchanted blade has. I never thought I'd lay hands on another, much less to have the opportunity to fight one." And he starts summoning more of his Dora explosive things, and Chihiro's just kind of like cutting through them. He's demanding to know where the other sword that he knows is. Well, the guy keeps on summoning these explosive things, and he starts yelling out loud enough for Char to hear him out inside in the car.
He's just like, I'm a bad guy! His face contorts into horrifying proportions, and he just screams out stuff like, "You suck! Everyone's gonna die by trying to help you, just like your mom did. Remember your dead mom? She's dead.
Your mom's dead!"
like, I get it. He's a bad dude. Chill out.
It's like, everyone who protects you is gonna die. And Char's getting upset because, she's getting guilted and thinking that everyone around her, including Chihiro, is going to die. Bombs go off and stuff. Chihiro uses another sword ability. This is the red goldfish one. And so a big old arc of flame just appears around him. And then he starts to use the black one to slash from a distance again. And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm reading his abilities." And he dodges around and he gets behind Chihiro, goes to essentially point-blank range Hadoken bomb Chihiro in the back while he's got him bound up with his belt. And he goes, "Ha! Too bad!" And Chihiro just says, "Red, invincible." And it reflects the explosion? ?
So, the way I understand this is Hat Guy has like a special sorcery ability called Invincible that makes him invincible. It's why his bombs don't hurt himself. And our lead here, Mr. Bocce, I don't remember his name, he steals it. He duplicates it, so he's invincible, And I guess maybe only one person can have it. I guess maybe he was just dumb and decided not to make himself invincible for this point blank attack. The only time in which really it felt like him being invincible from his own explosions would matter. So he gets blown up by his own explosion. It's very unclear what's happening here.
Right. So Bob Bocce goes outside, and now that he's beaten the sorcerer guy, he goes to the car where Sheba and Char are, and Char puts on like her, very like her elegant young lady thing that she was doing at one point in the previous chapter. It's like, oh yes, very well done. You are worthy of protecting me. And Chihiro's like, I thought you didn't have any money. Ah! But Chihiro thinks about the fact that, she's all alone. We really need someone. And he says, hey, look, going after the guys that you're after will bring me closer to my goal. So since we share common interests, I'll protect you. And then he goes over to the sorcerer guy, and he says, I have 3 questions. Who's your boss? What do you want with that kid? And where is the enchanted blade, Cloud Gouger? And that's the end of our chapter. I'm still not interested in the slightest in these characters and what they're doing. But this was a fight chapter, and the action in this series, I think, has been serviceable thus far. Stuff looks cool, at least, when it's happening.
It is remarkable that that's like the highest praise we're able to give this series so far. Is like technically very acceptable. Like so far, like outside of like that first chapter where it was like, hey, my sword makes like goldfish. I think I'm struggling to think of a moment where I've been like oohed or awed by anything that this series has done, which is
Ooh, there's a third ability he hasn't used yet. Ooh.
So yeah, we're gonna see the series has its weird meme status has allowed it to take off here in America. It's worth noting that means next to nothing in Japan.
Right.
I don't know if it has the same kind of status there or not, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll know if there's ever any random shots of girls in bikinis, and it's like, this is gonna stick around now.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Speaking of which, New Exorcist, Chapter 21, about Nue. Hey, so remember that whole thing where you established, like, oh, it looks like Nue might be taking on a different form. Maybe she won't be super present in the near future after this whole thing. It's like, nope! Get rid of that idea. It's gone. No. Change status quos.
Stupid.
No.
Stupid.
So, there we get a flashback that explains that Moro now basically knew that he was probably going to fail against Nue just because of the level of her power. And so he refused any help when it was offered to him. Like, he was told, like, oh yeah, we'll give you as many members as you need for this. And he realized, like, this girl's too powerful. No one's going to win. The mission will fail. If it's going to fail, I'm the only one who should receive the punishment. Instead, I'll just use this as a chance to obtain more intel on her. And the Lord's going to be watching through Shiroha's eyes during this, so I'll make Nue reveal her true strength. And that will be what I accomplish while I spare anyone else the punishment of failing to kill her. Oops! She's way stronger than I thought she was. And he's just overwhelmed by this new appearance of Nue's with the weird kimono that she's wearing and stuff. And he realized, like, I was naive. I don't know if there's any limit to her power. This is as if I'm not providing any intel at all until utter defeat. And Shiroha recognizes this is just a glimpse into the power of one of the Hyo's cornerstones, going over, the different levels of spirits that there are. I do like that Gakuro doesn't really have the context for her commentary, though, saying, like, oh, yes, the arch nemesis of all exorcists. And Gakuro says, what? She just doesn't know what she's talking about.
Oh, my God.
And then Nue says to herself very dramatically, like, I cut it very close, but that will probably serve the role as a deterrent. And we're back in the club room, and everything's fine now. And we've got Moriyuki here, and he's going to just be hanging around with us. Woo! This sucks.
I don't know.
Stupid.
I don't know what I want at a new Exorcist. Because I'm like, when it's very serious, there's like points where I miss the dumb comedy stupidness of it. And then when the dumb comedy stupidness happens, I'm like, ugh, at least be like a boring shonen battle manga. I'm like, everything it switches to, I don't like.
So Gakuro asks, like, oh, isn't it dangerous to have him here? And Nue says, nah, it's okay. And Moriyuki establishes, like, yeah, the trade-off for using that Shikigami is that I can't fight for about a month. So, yeah, I guess I'll just do what you say while I'm here. Okay.
Cool.
And Nue says, like, yeah, speaking of which, I can't use my hollow weapon for a while, which everyone there is shocked to hear. And so Nue's like, yeah, so I can't fight while it's broken. Don't tell the Fujino clan about this. She says in front of a group of 3 people, 2 of which are part of the Fujino family.
Yeah.
Make that joke. Yeah. So she's asked, Kyokatsu asks, like, why can't you use your hollow weapon? She says, like, oh, yeah, sure. Could you bring the whiteboard from my room? And Kyokatsu's like, there's a blackboard right behind you. Next panel. Thank you for waiting 15 minutes. There's a whiteboard behind her.
That is, unfortunately, and this pains me to admit it, actually funny as a joke.
It's a funny joke, delivered poorly. I feel like I think it needs. I think it needs a little bit different of a layout in order to properly establish like the beat and punchline. But I do like. Thanks for waiting 15 minutes for him to get the whiteboards. Now I'll explain. So she basically steals whole cloth an explanation of power output from Bleach, like of like power coming out as if from a faucet, and says like, oh, say let's like the taps like
Nick,
size and durability.
Are you telling me this series might take some inspiration from Bleach?
I would never tell
with
you
their hollow weapons.
And their Shinigami core.
No, it's very different, Nick.
So Nue says like, yeah, so the size and durability of the tap are dependent on the medium's performance. So yeah, Shiroha, you have basically like a water truck compared to a regular faucet for Gakuro. My Xenoblade would require the performance of a factory drain pipe, and I've been using a special tool to temporarily boost your performance, Gakuro. But I went overboard this time. I used the performance of about a dam's drain hole for the required output. And it's like, okay, so very big sources of gushing water. And so I had to go to the bathroom while I was reading this. And then I came back and I finished reading it. And so they're like, okay, so you've exhausted the ability to output that much power that you had. How long is that going to last? And Nue says it's going to last until Gakuro just grows and his performance as a medium improves. So it's going to depend entirely on you, Gakuro. Yay! Yay!
Again, an almost good joke where she's like, I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting anything from you. Basically, it's like, okay, kind of funny. Gakuro sucks. He's a big loser. No one's like, I have high hopes for you. They're like, I have ambitions for you, I guess. I have inklings that you might achieve an aspect of a goal.
So Moriao analyzes the situation. He realizes, like, man, I've kind of like provided bad intel to my group because I did not realize how close Nue was actually cutting things. If she's actually in a dire situation now, the footage that everyone got from Jiroha is probably going to deter them from sending people after her while they have this chance to recover. So he thinks like it would be nice if I could like provide some intel to the family, but if that were possible, Nue wouldn't be revealing this info to me. So she's even using countermeasures against lip reading. as in she's distorting the video and audio, I guess, and he knows this because maybe because he saw the previous footage. I don't know. So he's just like, all right, here's the only thing I can do right now. Hey, you're Yajima, right? How much do you know about Nue? She's not my sister. That was a lie.
We're not related by blood. He's like, nice. Anyway, do you know anything else about her?
He says like, oh, you don't know anything. In that case, you better stop lending her a hand. And he kind of like waits for Nue to like interrupt him, and he's like, oh, she's not stopping me. And Nue says like, oh, it's fine. I don't know what you're gonna tell him, but yeah, it's time that he learn more about my true identity. Okay then. Since ancient times, we exorcists have exist for one purpose only. The reason that exorcists exist only in this town is the same reason for the occurrence of the spirits. Do you know why there are so many spirits at this school? And it was established previously that Gakuro, when he left the school, didn't see as many spirits that he could train up against. And Gakuro realized, like, oh, it's because this is where Nue has been sealed. And Moriarty's like, that's right, but she's not facilitating the occurrence of spirits, she's producing them. There are 6 sealed spirit ancestors here called the Hyo, the Destroyers. Spirits are born only from the Hyo. As long as they exist, the spirits will continue to be produced. And Nue, whom you're helping, is one of those Hyo. Gasp. So
you can't see it. I'm visually falling asleep right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take a quick nap.
Yeah, so like he says, like if you're sparing to help and to protect the world from spirits, you're directly assisting someone who's producing more of those dangers. He's thinking like, oh yeah, this kid, he's just like the old me, dismayed when facing the truth of reality. He's like, yeah, you should remove yourself from this. You got good intentions, but that's different from. And when he looks at Gakuro, he looks all determined.
He has an expression.
And Moriarty's like, what?
I said I don't want pickles on this!
And I will put my foot down on this! You come back here and put brined cucumbers on my sandwich! So not pickles. But brined cucumbers, that's right!
I'll accept
I know
that.
what I'm about!
Oh, he's an idiot. He's just like, you put these revolting slices on there. Now, if there were cucumbers, perhaps submerged in a vinegar of some kind for an extended period of time, perhaps with dill as a flavor enhancement, then I would find it appropriate.
You take these raisins away from here, and then you go out there and sun-dry some grapes and bring them to me.
They're like, oh, the poor boy's stupid. You know what? This a lot of things are starting to make sense.
So yeah, Nue just says that the Moriarty's explanation is basically correct, and she's like, yeah, let's talk about my goal. And that's the end of the chapter. So, I don't know. It feels like this was supposed to be kind of a bombshell moment, but instead it was just kind of like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sure. I mean, I kind of figured that Nue was attached to this anyway. So,
by bombshell, yeah, I guess it's just like, hey, Nue has lore. Oh shit! This is part of the bit. I'm really just very tired thinking about this series. I apologize. She just has lore, and it's not interesting. Nue herself is not a particularly interesting character, but I get it. Her name's in the fucking title of the manga. This is her Exorcist we're talking about, so like, we gotta get to her at some point. I do get it, but it is just like, I'm very not even whelmed. I'm just like, this is boring. This is a very boring conversation had in the most boring way. This guy is attempting like, oh, I'm like captured and like none of my surveillance is getting back. How can I possibly undermine this situation? Like, let me just talk to him and try to sway him away in front of everybody. And Nue's just like, I don't care. I'll do whatever you want. It's not gonna. I'm gonna let it happen. It's like nothing feels like it has any stakes. Nue never makes anything feel dramatic because she just is like, yeah, whatever. And it's just boring. It's just a very boring way to deliver an entire scene.
There are reasons why the character who can solve everything is taken out of the story after a certain point.
Eventually, Gojo has to fucking get got or something. Like, take him out, all right?
Yeah, I just watched that episode. It's and yeah, like this is still a series that is, you know, it's still young. It's like not even half a year old at this point. So I'm not saying like, oh yeah, Nue needs to like go away, but she has to at least stop acting like nothing affects her. It's really, it's growing very irritating that she's just this little troll who doesn't seem to have any stake in anything. When it was very early on in the series and it was like, oh, she picked out Gakuro for mysterious, untold reasons, it's like, okay, we can kind of fill in the gaps and just believe that like she's chosen him for a reason. But the way that she goes about everything, acting like, you know, she's just kind of goofing around, makes it feel like she doesn't actually care about all this stuff, even though she's literally directly saying, here's why I care about stuff. It's like, I don't trust it based on the way she's drawn and written.
Yeah, I get it. Like, you're like, hey, I want to have this cool, mysterious character. But instead of making her cool and mysterious, I want her to be, you know, like, aggressively silly and, you know, very, like, cartoonish. She wants to play video games with people. And she's like, oh, we have a prisoner, but I'm going to do, like, a pointy thing with it. They're actually our friend. Like, I get it. It's just not compelling, especially as like the series has tried to move into a more serious direction after the Shiraha stuff happened. Like, I guess it worked when it was like kind of like a dumb romantic comedy stuff, but now it's very obnoxious.
Yeah. Moving on. So we're going to talk about Two on Ice, Chapter 3, the final chapter. Chapter 3
It's
alongside
ending,
each
yes.
other. Well, as far as Doug Manga is concerned, kind of. So last time it was established, like, hey, there's a class recital that's happening, taking place in June 2021 specifically, which seems to indicate that we're going to continue to have an accelerated timeline in just like the plans of this manga. So hey, you know, our young hero, I haven't memorized his name. He's excited because, you know, he's going to get to skate alongside Kisara, and so we're told like by their, you know, like kind of fellow students / coaches, like, okay, you're going to have a 3-minute side-by-side program. It's going to use one of Kisara's past programs at Hayuma, God, he's memorized as established in the last chapter. So yeah, you can aim for the top if you start now, you know, because you've got all these advantages and stuff that they've talked about. So they start doing the performance, the music plays, big trumpet, music playing, they're skating and stuff, and Ayumi's really, you know, happy about this. But then you realize, like, oh shit, the first jump in this routine is a triple axel, and I can't do that. So he starts to panic, and Kisara just says, like, I'll match you. And instead they do a double axel together. And Hayumi realizes, like, oh, she's doing fewer rotations. She's doing less complicated moves so that I can keep up with her.
Uh-huh.
But even so, he's realizing, like, geez, I'm running out of breath doing this, and she's so far away. And you realize, like, oh my god, the rink that we're in, it feels so huge. He's realizes that he's not got the practice for this kind of thing. And one of the twins analyzes the situation and also realizes, like, yeah, Hayuma, like, does not have experience even skating in a rink this big. He doesn't know how to utilize the space. He's not used to the direction that he has to have. He doesn't have the stamina for all this stuff. He doesn't have the precision and everything. And as time goes on, because his stamina is dropping, he's getting less and less precise in following along with Kisara. And Kisara realizes he's struggling and starts to be like, oh, so okay, I'll slow down. And Hayuma's like, no, I can keep going. And he goes to take off with her, and his leg cramps up, and he just collapses. And so as he's struggling to catch his breath and everything, Kisara's like, "It's okay. We'll do fewer moves. Let's just go slower." And Hayumi's like, "No, it's okay. I'll catch up with you." And Kisara's like, "Look, a side by side is not a competition between the two of us. The important thing is we skate in unison. So if you can't do a jump, I'll make it less difficult. If you can't keep up with me, I'll skate slower. As long as the bare minimum is covered, the more skilled partner matches the less skilled partner to keep in unison. So your timing and habits, they're perfect, but you've got a long way to go when it comes to gaining experience to performing moves accurately. So I'll do easier versions of the parts you can't do right now to match you." And that is like a dagger to his heart. Just like, oh my god, she's going to just baby me and take it easy on me. So he's left to think about this as they break. He goes to like do classes and stuff, but he's still thinking about the side by side routine. As it so happens, the words "side by side" are in his English class. But he realizes like, oh, it means alongside, which, yes, I don't know if there is some sort of distinction in the Japanese language that I'm not catching here that has a deeper meaning than it seems to in English. But he realized, like, look, I look up to this girl and I want to skate alongside her, and I'm just not doing it. So he goes to the rink. He gets in some individual practice before Kisara shows up for their next training session. And one of the twins is there, and she says, like, oh, yeah, he's been coming here, like, during all of his lunch breaks, trying to do a triple axel properly. And, give him some credit. Like, when I first saw him doing it, he was nowhere near close, but he is making progress doing it. And, hey, if he could do that, as a middle school boy, he could, like, compete domestically. That's, a tremendous accomplishment for someone his age. And it feels like, if you just train for kindergarten, that's what you're supposed to do in order to be in this world. But maybe this kid could actually make up the difference because he's that dedicated and is progressing that quickly. Kisara interrupts Hayumi's practice session and says, "Hey, look, we're supposed to be practicing for pairs, right?" And he says, like, "Well, yeah, but I want to catch up to you because I know that, like, we're supposed to keep up alongside each other, but wouldn't you enjoy doing this if you could go more all out? Because, you're a prodigy, and wouldn't you enjoy yourself more?"
I don't know why. The only thing I can think of is that, like, it's like the Smash Brothers meme with Peach and Daisy, where, like, Daisy gets real close. She's like, "So don't you just want to go fucking ape shit sometimes?"
And we get a very brief little flashback of Kisara thinking about someone named Takun. This kind of older-looking boy that, for whatever reason, needed to leave. He apparently took a flight to go off somewhere, left her by herself, and left her upset. And we don't get the full context of that just yet. But she's lost in thought over it. Hayumi realizes, like, oh god, I say something I shouldn't have and stuff. But Kisara comes back to it and says, like, okay, I get it. You want me to use my full lift of my potential. So if you're that insistent about it, you can skate in unison with me, no problem, right? If you keep in unison with me for the whole performance without going out of sync, then I'll do a triple axel with you for our last jump. I'll up the difficulty a little bit, offering a compromise.
Mm-hmm.
So Hayumi, of course, still has to work really hard to make up that difference. And we just get, a training montage of him trying and continuing and stuff. He is apparently making progress, but he still, ends up on the ground collapsing in exhaustion after they're doing it. And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make you show your full potential at the recital," while he's on the ground, out of breath. And we get to the day of the recital, and they're all set to go. They take the stage. They're in their, performance costumes and stuff. And Yuma's like, "Oh my god, I've done it. It's the moment of truth. A while ago, I was under that gloomy snow-filled sky all on my own. But now the girl I've always looked up to, the girl I've been chasing, is skating alongside me." And Kisara looks at him and says, "You better make me show off my full potential."
Yeah. So... Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, this is, I think, effective in a lot of ways. I think it's cool to establish that, like, hey, even though, like, we got over the hurdle of the fact that, like, he doesn't know stuff and he's just going to duplicate one of her routines, the challenge is also she's a better skater than he is, and she needs to dial back her routine. And, like, as someone in athleticism, you're just like, isn't that frustrating? Like, isn't the whole point of this is to go out and prove, like, how great you are? And I think it's like an effective way to, like, establish bits of her character, establish bits of his character, as little things like, don't you want to go out and, like, then present an interesting goal, which is like, if you can do the perfect routine with me, then we will do this very difficult move that you want to do. It's just like a satisfying way of establishing, like, a goal for the character. Now we've moved very quickly. We kind of have gone through the practice and we haven't seen it, so maybe they'll, like, reference it back in the next chapter. But we had to assume he's achieved that, and they're gonna attempt this very strong move. So, like, it's very satisfying in a lot of ways.
I think that the idea is that they're not actually going to decide to do the triple axel until they're actually at the end of the routine. So, like, she's going to make the call essentially
on the spot.
On the spot, yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna call the match as it happens. Yeah,
we're gonna do it in the ring.
Yeah. Suplex me. What? Bam.
On the other hand.
Now, that said, this is chapter 3 of this series, and at chapter 3, we have to discuss whether or not we want to keep a series into recap. And I kind of gave my thoughts on this last week to a degree, where I just don't see a long-term future for this series. It feels like it's almost already setting itself up to be a shorter series, because it's like, hey, yeah, we actually don't have a ton of competition. There's only, like, a dozen of us, in our area, and, like, we're not going to be, this isn't a huge sport, basically. So, like, the idea that this could be, like, a short, 25 chapter little story kind of works, honestly. Like, you give them a couple rivals or something like that, a big competition for them to prepare for, and then, you go from there and just end it or whatever. I still think this series is, unfortunately, like, definitely not going to make it. I would be stunned if this series started selling like gangbusters. This is the one that should have gotten memes, but it is what it is. So, I mean, I'm at this place where you're like, hey, I want to keep talking about this. I'd be like, sure, absolutely. But honestly, I go either way. I'm not too hard pressed one way.
It's very weird because I definitely am going to keep on reading this because I like it. But I don't know if we're going to have, like, interesting things to say about it week to week. Then again, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to, but it's like I'm not going to push hard on it at all. It's like I'm going to read it one way or the other. So
like, here are, like, two scenarios in my mind. One is, like, we've acknowledged we think Kagurabachi is probably going to last longer, which is unfortunate. We can also just remove it. Kagurabachi is not, it's had 4 chapters and it's less interesting than this. It's probably not going to last as long, but it's maybe not as interesting. Alternatively, like, we had made mention previously, like, Martial Masters Asumi is going to have, like, the little pin in it. Maybe we'll revisit that. That series also does not look like it's going to last a tremendous amount of time. So, at some point, maybe we just enjoy the ride. I mean, we grabbed 9 Balls Dragon Parade or whatever it was.
Right.
And that ended very quickly, but we still had fun with it. So, I mean, if we enjoy it, I say add it. But again, that's entirely if you think you would like to talk about it. I'm of a place right now where I'm just like, it's fine. I don't think of this series that much during any given week.
I want to talk about it. Let's do it.
There you go.
Yeah, look. I'm eating my vegetables by talking about Kagurabachi and its entirely dumb characters. So
yeah, let me have some goddamn dessert.
All right, we do have a few more series to go. Elusive Samurai, chapter 128. Destiny 1337. Hey, Tokiyuki's gonna fight Shiba, and Shiba has the high ground, Anakin. and he starts thrusting out with his katana. He manages to nick Tokiyuki's shoulder and then just like unleashes a barrage of quick thrusts like that, forces Tokiyuki on the defensive. And everyone realized, like, shit, if he's attacking like that quickly from a distance, then Tokiyuki can't use the Demon Heart Buddha Blade because it relies on his opponent, exposing their wrist. And Shiba just starts, like, bragging about, like, his cool sword. He's like, yes, this is a blade forged by Masamune. I call it Hayatebachi. It's as long as a regular sword, but lighter. Not needing preparatory moves makes one-handed thrusts faster. And we see that on the back end of the blade, there's all these tiny holes that make it up. So there's a whole lot of stuff, weight removed from the blade, presumably making it very fragile, one would think, though.
Yeah.
And also, because he can, just use a single hand, he can use his other hand, he takes, like, one of the guards off of his armor, and he uses it as a shield whenever Tokiyuki does launch an attack. And he says, my fighting style has no weaknesses! Against Tokiyuki.
Yeah, I was going to say, if somebody came at me with a real sword, mine would probably just break. I'm also not using a real shield, so I feel like there's experienced fighters could find ways around that. But for you, my good bitch, you're fucked.
Yeah, he specifically says that he has prepared this fighting style for elusive opponents like Tokiyuki. He's like,
all my elusive antagonists. You. Okay, just you.
Just you. And he says, like, yeah, I'm not gonna let your bizarre techniques get the upper hand and take the lives of proper heroes. I had no chance to use it to protect my peers, but it's ideal for fighting the source of my woes. It's a pretty cool little villain speech. Like, you've tormented me by taking my comrades, and I'm gonna end that. Mm-hmm. And Tokiyuki, meanwhile, is, like, he's taking all these little attacks, and he can't defend against them, and he's like, oh my god, my katana feels so heavy, he's overwhelming me. We cut away very briefly over to Uesugi, who is instructed by Shiba, like, hey, you're the only one who can unite the Kanto Ashikaga after I die, and I know that you'll say that you'd rather dedicate yourself to political intrigue and human experimentation, right? I would love to grant your wish, but these times demand that we assume heavy responsibilities. Sometimes I envision the future. How we lived in peaceful times, you would have excelled as a scholar who didn't perform a human experimentation, presumably. I don't know. Maybe you would. It would be great if we could just live in a world where you could just get away with that. And he's also like, I could have been a freewheeling 17-year-old, and that's it. We could have lived those lives, but we don't live in those times. We live in a time of chaos, and we have to face our enemies. And everyone, who is in the Hojo army is watching and realizing, like, oh man, like, why doesn't Tokiyuki do what he always does and stuff? He isn't scampering around. Maybe, like, Onimaru's too heavy a blade for him to use, because Onimaru was a blade that was gifted to him by Yorishige. Maybe he's not used to wielding it the way that he has to. And Kojiro thinks, like, I might have to jump in on this in order to, make sure that, we can, get away from here.
Well, Nick, what does everybody's favorite character think?
Akie says, hey, you
suck.
Win! And so Akie, the wisest and best character, whenever a character can't do something themselves, he comes in and is like, no, just do it! Or, does what is girl with her sword leg thing? No! I get the cool action chapter. Oh, Tokiyuki's having a one-on-one fight? Oh, but I'm your coach. I get all the glory. You don't need Yorishige. Fuck him. I'm a way better mentor than Yorishige ever was. I
told you to just do it. And, like, 300 years from now or whatever, that's going to be the fucking motto of a shoe. So, stupid. Do it.
And so, with this great speech that Akie gives to him, Tokiyuki feels a surge of strength, and he's like, oh, Onimaru suddenly feels lighter. This sword holds the hopes and generations of my ancestors, and Yorishige, and 3,000 surviving retainers watching over me. It gives my blade speed. And he suddenly starts darting around and slashing more vigorously, and he does this weird jumping strike thing, which does look very cool in a full page spread. And we're told, like, this is the strength of Onimaru. It's a blade of destiny. So what qualities does the blade have? Soul.
Next
passion,
time, maybe.
Passion stuff. So as a result of vaulting over Shiba, now Tokiyuki has the high ground, Anakin. So like, oh man, this is great. He was so intent on holding the advantage. If he can keep it, and instead Tokiyuki turns on his heel and suddenly runs up the steps. He runs straight towards Shiba's forces. And Shiba's like, what the fuck is he doing? And Tokiyuki's like, I have a plan. Follow me. I'll imbue Onimaru with what I've learned and finish this. So, like about 75% of this chapter, I would say. Good beginning, good end. Shut the fuck up, Akie. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, leave us alone. I agree with you. Yeah, this series, like it's a decent chapter, but Akie just isn't a good and interesting part of the series. So his contributions tend to make things worse.
Look, we've got to make set. Look, who's a person who's not popular but is getting pushed right now? Can't think of one.
Yeah, everyone who's being pushed deserves it.
Austin Theory 3 months ago was here, and
Nick's like, I'll never live it down.
Anyway, so yeah.
You can always just do Charlotte Flair. Isn't that the go-to? Isn't she always getting pushed?
Akane-banashi time. Story 81, Chocho Konjakute, the All Kanban, Part 2, featuring a very Halloween cover page, because I guess this is probably the only color page that Akane-banashi is going to get this month, so we're going to do the Halloween cover page now. So
it makes sense, and I like it's, all the ladies get their spooky costumes, and I do appreciate that, what's her, Hikari is like a mummy, but it's not like a sexy mummy.
No, she's just a mummy.
Yeah, it's just like, boom, mummy. All right, cool stuff. I like the colors. Very fun. Akane's outfit's very cute. So, good stuff. I want those socks.
I do like that the only one who is dressed sexily is just Urara, who's like, yeah, of course she went
like,
to that one.
if I had gams that big, I would use them too. Gams isn't the right word, but, whatever.
Okay. It's getting into the chapter itself. We get this introduction to like Chocho's gimmick, basically. That 2 years ago, like there was this online broadcast of a mahjong game where Chocho was playing against professional mahjong players, and he had this winning hand that had a ridiculously low chance of coming up. And he surged into, with all these winnings, and for just a moment, he had triumphed over the country's best pro players. And there are people who, they interview like one of the players afterwards who's like, oh yeah, I mean, he's got this incredible willingness to gamble, and his decisiveness is incredible. But most of all, it's his reads. What to play, what to discard. He's watching things that run counter to the common theory of mahjong players. I think what he saw was... We cut to the present where Chocho is doing his performance. And he just actually, instead of like having some like, interesting little phrase like, oh, this thing they say about, in order to transition to the story, he instead says like, yeah, I was doing some gambling backstage earlier. Oh no, not with money.
A good boy.
But he says there are said to be 3 great pleasures in life, and one of them is to gamble. And he introduces the story, which is about a gambler, an old gambler, and he's getting talked up by Master Hasho, who's next to Akane, saying like, oh, he's got all this great enunciation, and his nin is impatient but good-spirited. His words and deeds go hand in hand. Everything he says passes through the ears and straight to the gut, a quality any Rakugoka would envy. And Akane's like, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's like, he's really easy to listen to, but like everyone who's listening seems really subdued. And Hasho explains that that's probably because of the story that he's chosen. One for show. A retiree, once known as a master gambler, is invited by younger men to play a game of Choboichi, where the roll of the dice leads to delight and agony alike. And with most group performances like the one they were at, each slot has around 15 minutes, except the headliner, who gets 30 minutes. So everyone kind of wants for that to have like a long, satisfying story worthy of the finale. It's like, we've slotted 30 minutes for the main event plus 10 minutes for entrances. So we don't want to have no 5-minute squash match. So Akane is like, oh, I get it. It's like, you go to a restaurant hoping for steak and you get gyudon beef instead. And Hasho's like, sure.
He's like, whatever.
But Akane's like, oh, so why did he choose this performance then? And Hasho's like, did he play dice with you backstage earlier? And that's how he decides what story to perform. Which, when you think about it, is really cool, because that means that he's got, at least 11 stories in his repartee that he is, very confident in. And also, Akane rolled a 10, which is not a very common combination on dice. So this is one that he probably doesn't get to perform a whole lot. However, I just start to say, like, he leads the story he chooses to fate, but where it differs from true gambling is presumably all of them are gonna be hits. So Hasho goes, not Cho goes through the story, and so he's playing the old man. He's like, "Oh, it's been 10 years since I quit gambling, and my ears and eyes have grown all old and soft. So, but I'll just enjoy a game with you all. So, okay, guess the roll of the dice under the cup. Go on, make your bets." And so everyone's like, "Did you guys see that? The old man, when he rolled the dice, it came out of the cup he put down. It's just literally just sitting right there, and he's so senile he doesn't realize it." And so everyone in the audience starts to, laugh a bit. And meanwhile, the old man's like, "All right, everyone, place your bets. Who wants to put money on number one?" The dice has landed on 1. Everyone can see it. "All right, you're betting 1. You're betting 1. You're betting 1. Another 1. Another 1." And he's literally, Cho is pointing at people in the audience as if they're the people participating in the gambling. And it's a really nice touch that, like, because it's a level of crowd involvement that we have not seen from a previous performer. And it does strike him as very different from people that we've seen before.
Yeah, he does crowd work.
Yeah, it's because of that, like, everyone's suddenly, like, getting really pulled into it, as if they're not just the observers, they're the participants in the game. And so he's like, "All right, I'm upset I didn't get to roll earlier. Whoops. Sorry. I like that you're all betting the same, because it makes things interesting. If the die under this cup is anything but a 1, I win. Time to find out who luck favors." And so it's like, get the big build up. And then Hasho starts to say, where it differs from true gambling is, and Chojo says, "Let's see who wins after I put away the dice that I left out for show." "I told you to guess the roll under the cup, right? What's your problem?"
What are you doing? Come on, idiots.
And Hasho says his performances never miss. He's got the best read of the audience in the entire Rakugo world. He has the boldness to seize the attention of the crowd all in one swift motion. A born gambler, both off the stage and on. The natural gambler, Chocho Kanjakute. And there's this big, cool 2-page spread of him holding up, like, the cup and die from his story, while there's, like, this festival and roaring waves around him.
Yeah, it's, we got a good follow-up chapter. Chocho is very cool. It's a very dramatic, kind of cool, suck you in sort of story, and he has a very powerful style. You absolutely can see why Akane is being compared to him. I also appreciate that a show referred to Nin, the idea, like, everyone's now doing it now.
Yeah, it's just the thing now. It's not just Mike Aru's thing. It's like, no, everyone does it.
Yeah, everyone knows about Nin. We all heard it from him. But no, it's like, it's just very good. It's a cool character. It's a cool introduction. I want to see how Akane reacts to this guy.
Yeah.
All right.
And One Piece.
Yeah, Nick, unfortunately, we have, we're like almost at time. We have a huge chapter, One Piece, so I would love to say I'm going to blaze
Is it
through
huge?
this, but this is one of the craziest chapters of One Piece. So we're talking about chapter 1094, 103, Mercy's Dragon Damnation. So we get a cool color page with Ryuma and Zoro, and this is apparently to advertise the Ryuma the Wanted one shot Oda did a long time ago, which is where Ryuma came from before he was killed and made a samurai. Like, it's just a story, like he reused the character. It's to advertise that. As to why Zoro is on there and like characters connected to him,
Right.
it's just kind of, I guess, to be like, I don't know, Zoro's the closest. People may not remember Ryuma enough. Like, I will put Zoro here basically. So I spent a really long time trying to figure out who people here were, or the characters on the left, I should say. And I think I think I remember most of, but again, we have very little time, so I'm not going to sit here and talk about that too much more.
Look, Kuina, return confirmed. She's alive.
Yeah, actually, that is the chapter title. I thought that was the chapter title, but no, the chapter title is actually Five Elders, Godhead of Science and Defense, Saint J. Garcia Saturn.
It's about time that we had a chapter title that was crazier than Cipher Academies.
Yeah. So, we opened the chapter with a reminder that Atlas basically called out to all the pacifistas and was like, hey, wipe out the Navy soldiers. So that's the new order. That's the new hierarchy that's gone around. And they're like, oh my god, is that an order from Vegapunk? This isn't good. The pacifistas just start blowing people up all over the place. We get a little glimpse of like the Vega tank going down, and it like descends kind of like perfectly vertical as it needs to. It could just like hook to the clouds itself because of the wheels. And Sanji's like, hey, I found Bonnie. Frankie's like, how did you do that? He's like, my lady radar. And Vegapunk's like, that sounds unscientific, but I'll allow it. And then Sanji leaps out of the tank.
You seem like a troubled and horny young man, so I'll trust your sense of these things.
I'll trust your libido to save that young woman. We cut over to Bonnie, who is being attacked, but she manages to get away. She grabs a pistol and she uses a new technique, near-death experience. She shoots a couple people, and they immediately sort of just like imagine they had just died. It's a horrifying thing. All of them are like, oh my god, I just saw the river Styx. They feel like they're skeletons. This is a really cool technique that would probably like a good deal more if every time Bonnie moved, it wasn't like a graphic ass shot. It felt like it was like, give this character even just shorts. It's the briefs that really make it hard. But anyway, we run into Bonnie runs into one of the pacifistas, and it says, no escape for you. And she's like, why? I thought we had control of it. And we are introduced to Vice Admiral Bluegrass, who's like, I have the ride for, so I can take control of anybody, basically, as long as I ride on them. So I could override this sort of stuff. And this pacifist is about to shoot her, and Bonnie just gets lost in the fact that it looks like her father, and Sanji comes in and basically saves her. I do appreciate that the reason, because the first time I read it, I thought Bonnie was just like, I'm going to die, and not that she just lost, like she just got sucked into things, and Sanji didn't need to save her that reason. She's like, it's my dad. I suppose if a robot that looked like my dad came up and shot a laser at me, I would also just be like, Dad, why?
Even if you got used to seeing a bunch of killer robots that looked like your dad, I think you would probably never 100% get used to it. So,
another one of the vice admirals shows up. He has an otter fruit. He throws a big clamshell hammer. I don't know if these characters are supposed to be relevant, so I'm not going to keep track of any of them. We don't get introduced to them either, so who knows. Frankie goes and gets Bonnie back on the Vega tank. We cut over to Luffy and Borsalino and their fight. Borsalino's like, look, I'm going to bounce because, like, if I spend all my time with you, I'm going to fail my mission. Luffy's like, yeah, but my mission is to make you fail your mission. And he's like, well, too bad I'm light. So he just peels away.
I do love that Luffy chases after him and we get the...
Yeah, running in place. But in that moment, basically every strong character on this island is like, oh,
What the fuck is
something's going on. Borsellino, Luffy, Zoro, Lucci, Jinbei, they're all like, what the fuck just showed up on this island? And we just see this shadowy figure say, pacifistas, stand down. And the Vegapunk tank is like, wait, what's going on? Why aren't the pacifistas escorting us anymore? And they're like, wait, the only person who should have a higher authority is the 5 elders. And then a fucking magic pentagram shows up on the ground that begins like shooting out fire and smoke. It's absolutely wild. They're just like, holy shit, what's going on? Navy commanders are like, alert to all units on location. Saint Saturn to the 5 elders is embarking onto Egghead. People are like, what's this explosion? I don't really get what's going on. And then Sanji notes something's coming out of that circle. And one Marine soldier takes a look at this individual and is like, what is that monster? And his like friend, his fellow Marines like, I don't think you should say it. And we don't totally get what happened, but there's just a loud crack and there's a lot of blood coming out of that man. Yeah. So something bad just happened to him. And we get introduced to Saint J. Garcia Saturn, the highest authority in the world, the 5 elders, god, head of science and defense. And he looks different than the last time we saw him. His beard is a little bit, thicker and whatnot. But he also has like creepy evil legs and horns. And most notably, he has the awakened little cloud cloak thing that awakened Devil Zoan users seem to have. It's worth noting, people have theorized that he might have the Oshioni fruit.
Ushioni.
Yeah, which is basically like an ox demon. And it has magical powers, one of them being, if you look at it, it will kill you, essentially. So,
right.
There's a lot of...
It has the body of a spider.
Yes. So there are a lot of theories that all of the, elders might have various different yokai-inspired sort of monsters and whatnot. Who knows? But this is a terrifying introduction. My man just showed up in the most satanic-looking fucking outfit he can. He popped up out of a goddamn fucking pentagram. It is wild. Everyone's like, what the fuck?
I like how he's got this spider body with this very wide base. He still has his walking stick.
Yeah, he's got to keep himself stable. Everyone's surprised, and Kizaru, it's not Kizaru, it is Kizaru, but Borsellino takes this opportunity to shoot a laser beam and blows up the track that the Vega tank was on and basically sends it flying. Luffy is like, hey, I gotta, stop you from hurting my friends, basically. And Borsellino's like, you have to be reaching close to your limit now. So he goes, Luffy's like preparing his big attack. Borsellino shoots a little laser at him. It sends him spinning, which just comically amps him up even more. And he uses Gum Star Gun and punches Borsellino in the brain, like into his brain. Like it's the whole comical, like, boop over there. And Borsellino's just like, I'm seeing fucking stars right now. That's the kind of shit that would make me retire. I'm like, I don't want that smoke. If this man can punch my brains, I'm done. Saturn sees
everyone thinks that their laser powers are great until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So.
Saturn sees Luffy falling and is like, oh, Nika. The Vegapunk tank crashes. And Vegapunk is now defenseless on the ground in front of Saturn. Frankie's kind of guarding over him. Sanji's holding Bonnie. And Vegapunk's just like, Saint Saturn. He's like, indeed. I thought we already had you killed, Vegapunk. And Bonnie takes this moment to be reminded of these conversations she's had with Vegapunk and kind of be reminded of, everything he said. We still know all the details about Kuma's backstory, but clearly, she realized who the real enemy here is. So she grabs a random sword that she found on the ground, and absolute bravo to her, because this motherfucking demon Spider-Man shows up, and she's like, fuck you, you fucked with my dad, and stabs Saint Saturn to end the chapter.
Yeah, it's a crazy chapter. Lots of moving around and stuff. But now all of a sudden we've very much just kind of landed in a situation where it feels like, there was all this moving around and stuff, and this group of the Straw Hats has hit a dead end. They're confronted by this seemingly very overwhelming force that Bonnie is probably pissed off. I don't think that she's going to solve their problems even with her age skewer thing. And of course, Luffy is out of power. He was in Gear 5 for too long.
I always forget, what is Gear 5? What happens after he uses it?
I think he turns into an old man.
Is it an old man? I can't remember. I don't know. It's like a thing for everyone. I forgot which uses. This is like just a crazy chapter. One of the 5 elders showed up, and they have a demonic devil fruit looking thing, and it's just super fucking terrifying. Like, this is like such an imposing figure. I was spoiled on this initially through TikTok of all fucking places. Just posted an image and random thing. I was like, God damn it. But I'm glad I didn't pay much attention. I just scrolled past very quickly because I actually didn't appreciate all the details about Jay Garcia's like transformation. But there's so much going on. The fact that he has this fruit. I saw a really cool theory that started to like guess what the other members' fruits were, because there was like that scene with Sabo where they were escaping, and we saw like images of some of them, so that people were like, oh, I think this one's like sort of this bird Oni, and I think this person is like this face Oni, and like there's just really cool stuff kind of going on here. This feels like a fucking wild chapter to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is going to do it for our manga this week. So, what do you think, Quinn? What do you think was your favorite of everything?
My favorite was One Piece. As I said, this was a wild chapter. This is a great week. To be very clear, this was like an astonishingly good week, I think, for most series. Even if like they weren't good, they were just very interesting. Blue Box was very interesting. I loved Akane-banashi a lot. I thought Undead Unluck was really, really cool. Just everything of like our big series felt like very, interesting. But for me, like this chapter One Piece was just fucking wild.
I think that I'm going to give my favorite chapter this week to Akane-banashi.
Very fair.
Thought that it was a cool follow-up to Chocho's introduction. Like I said, it had a different feel to a lot of stuff that we've seen before. And I like it just how very direct it is. Like, how is this, performance interesting? It's like he just taps into people on this very raw, charismatic level and draws them in with his personality. My MVP, however, I think is going to be Saint J. Garcia Saturn for being one scary motherfucker. It was a weird thing because I, for whatever reason, didn't expect that the elders were going to be like last boss level.
Yeah, you didn't expect them to be intimidating, really. You're like, look at these old dudes. They all look like old political figures. Who cares? And yeah, every one of them now has the potential to be a terrifying monster, basically.
And so for just like having just a really kick-ass imposing entrance after making the situation way worse for the Straw Hats, yeah, I've got to give that to him. So
yeah, I agree completely. Jay Garcia Saturn is my MVP. Again, a lot of great candidates this week, but his was the one that I was like, fuck, like this made a very like powerful impact when I saw that form. The audience, by the way, picked One Piece as the character of the week and Chocho from Akane-banashi as the character of the week. So, a lot of cool stuff.
And guys, that is going to do it for this week of Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you all for joining us for the live recording of the show. We normally do this thing on Wednesdays at 7:30-ish Eastern Time. But you can stay updated on when we're going to be recording it by joining the Discord server, where you can just click the link wherever this gets posted to, and we'll keep you updated on how plans change and when we're going to end up recording our next episode and stuff. It will be right here on twitch.tv/RoloT, however. And we want to thank everyone who helps make the podcast what it is, including those of you who support us on Patreon, patreon.com/weeklymangarecap, where we like to post some bonus episodes whenever we get the chance to do so. We also would like to thank Ninja X3i, who maintains the Google Doc that keeps track of all sorts of recommendations, Q&A stuff that we will be answering on future episodes. MVP and favorite series voting, the history of all that stuff. Check all that out. You can find it via the Discord link. We would also like to thank Miles Stillitz and Winslow Cheddar, who created the opening sequence for the video version of Weekly Manga Recap, which you can watch on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. There's also title cards there occasionally done for us by Steve Mann, whose artwork can be found in all parts of the internet where boobs can be drawn. At Steve Mann Art is his general handle, I think, everywhere. And you can also just check out all past episodes of the show on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, as well as on iTunes and Spotify. And yeah, that's about everything.
Yeah. So I think next week we're going to talk about a little kitty on a little adventure. Everything very sweet. Spookmaster General probably will be back. And you never know, guys. Maybe a special guest will show up this year for a Weekly Manga Recap. We always enjoy a little Halloween special guest. You never know. So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
He said that in a very sultry vampire way. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Whoa.
Yeah, the voice actor for Asterion decided to retire, so you're going to be the new sassy vampire, Nick.
I don't know who that is.
Damn. Oh, man, Nick. You have to have your finger on the cultural pulse of the world.
Why?
Yeah. You're the man of the people, the voice on the streets. You're the street smart one on this show.
Don't make me have to know who people are, Quinn. I already struggle enough to keep manga casts straight.
I was like, Nick, this is a thing for Ryoma. And you were like, who? What are you talking about? Who's that guy?
I was so fortunate. You named one of the like 4 people in that 2-page spread that I could name. So.
All right, goodbye, everybody.